Black Panther 3 is starting to feel less like a distant Marvel possibility and more like a real piece of the studio's post-Secret Wars future. And that matters because the moment Marvel begins locking a film like this into a release window, it tells us something bigger than just a date. It tells us how important that movie is to the structure of the next saga. Black Panther is not a side franchise. It is one of the few corners of the MCU that still carries huge emotional weight, narrative significance, and long-term franchise value all at the same time. So if Marvel is now moving closer to a Black Panther 3 release plan, then this is not just another scheduling update. This is a signal that Wakanda is about to become central again in a major way. For a while, Black Panther 3 lived in that vague zone where everyone assumed it was coming. That uncertainty made sense. This franchise is operating under very specific pressure. It has to honor legacy. It has to continue a story that still carries the shadow of Chadwick Boseman. And it has to do all of that while the MCU itself is going through one of its biggest transitions ever. So Marvel was never going to rush this movie without a clear reason. That is why any release date movement is such a big deal. It means the studio may finally know where this story belongs in the larger plan. And based on the direction being discussed, the placement appears to be in Phase 7 after Secret Wars. That is a very important detail because it completely changes how we should think about Black Panther 3. If the film lands after Secret Wars, then it is not just continuing the current MCU status quo, it is helping define whatever comes next. Secret Wars is expected to reshape the Marvel Universe in some way, whether that means a soft reboot timeline merger or a new overall structure for the franchise. A Black Panther movie arriving right after that kind of event instantly becomes more than a sequel. It becomes one of the first major statements about the future of the MCU. That is exactly why this project carries so much weight. Wakanda is one of the few Marvel settings that feels both mythic and grounded at the same time. It has advanced technology, political tension, spiritual traditions, and a deep emotional connection with audiences. It can support huge blockbuster scale while still feeling intimate and character-driven. Marvel knows that. And after years of multiverse expansion, there is a strong chance the studio will want some of its next-era storytelling to feel more rooted again. Black Panther is perfectly built for that balance. The biggest question surrounding all of this is still the same one fans have been asking ever since Wakanda Forever ended. Who will be Black Panther going forward? That question is not just about casting, it is about identity. Wakanda Forever made a very deliberate choice to center grief and inheritance. It allowed the franchise to move through loss rather than around it. But Black Panther 3 cannot stay in that same emotional place forever. At some point, the story has to evolve from mourning into definition. It has to tell the audience what the mantle means now and who is meant to carry it into the future. Right now, there are several possible directions Marvel could take. The most direct path is continuing with Shuri as Black Panther and allowing her to fully grow into the long-term protector of Wakanda. That would preserve continuity and build directly on the emotional groundwork already established. Another possibility is that the multiverse events of Secret Wars create an opening for a new version of T'Challa to enter the story. That idea has been debated heavily among fans for obvious reasons. But from a purely structural standpoint, Secret Wars would be the event where Marvel could introduce something like that if they ever chose to. There is also the chance Marvel takes a third direction entirely and reshapes the role in a way audiences are not expecting yet. Whatever the answer is, Black Panther 3 feels like the movie where the studio will finally have to commit. That is one reason the release timing matters so much. If the movie sits after Secret Wars, then Marvel has narrative flexibility it does not currently have. Universe-altering crossover events are the easiest place to reset legacies, reposition major characters, and introduce new versions without making the transition feel forced. If a mantle shift is coming, then a post-Secret Wars film is where that kind of move would feel the most organic. There is also a wider franchise reason Black Panther 3 matters. Marvel is going to need anchor projects after Secret Wars. Not just movies that perform well, but movies that remind audiences why they care about the universe in the first place. Black Panther has that kind of built-in significance. The first film was not just a success. It became a landmark cultural event. Wakanda Forever carried a unique emotional burden and still maintained major attention because people care deeply about this world. Few Marvel franchises still have that level of immediate gravity. That makes Black Panther 3 one of the most valuable projects Marvel can place in an early Phase 7 slot. Another huge factor is the villain. Black Panther films work best when the antagonist is more than a physical threat. The strongest villains in this franchise challenge Wakanda philosophically. Killmonger questioned its isolationism. Namor forced it to confront power and vulnerability on a global scale. So Black Panther 3 will likely need an antagonist who can test not only the hero, but the future direction of Wakanda itself. If this is a post-Secret Wars world, then Wakanda may be dealing with a completely new political reality. That opens the door for a villain tied to global instability, technological power struggles, or even internal ideological fracture within Wakanda. That kind of setup could make the film feel huge without depending too much on crossover spectacle. And honestly, that may be exactly what Marvel needs. After years of increasingly cosmic stakes, audiences often respond strongly when a story feels focused but still important. Black Panther has always had the ability to do that. It can tell a story about one nation and still make it feel like the future of the world is being decided there. That is a rare strength. There is also the possibility that Black Panther 3 becomes one of the films that helps establish the new power structure of the MCU after Secret Wars. Who leads? Which nations matter most? What role Wakanda plays in global or even interdimensional politics? Those questions could all become part of this movie. And if Marvel really is looking for strong foundational projects to build the next era around, then Wakanda is an obvious choice. It already has the lore. It already has the emotional investment. It already feels important before a single new frame is even shown. That is why a release date update is not just a scheduling note. It is a clue. Studios reveal their priorities through calendar placement. And if Black Panther 3 is moving into an important position in Phase 7, then Marvel is telling us that this franchise remains one of the pillars of its long-term plan. There is also a creative opportunity here that Marvel cannot ignore. The MCU is entering a period where fans want clarity. They want stronger direction. They want films that feel like they matter individually and collectively. Black Panther 3 can deliver exactly that if handled well. It has a built-in emotional core. It has world building that feels distinct from every other Marvel property. And it has a title character whose legacy means something beyond the normal superhero formula. That combination gives the movie a chance to feel like a major event without relying entirely on nostalgia or shock value. From a storytelling perspective, the best version of Black Panther 3 is probably one that does three things at once. It defines the future of the mantle. It reestablishes Wakanda as a central force in the rebuilt MCU. And it introduces a conflict that says something meaningful about power, responsibility, and identity in this new era. If Marvel can do that, then this film will not just continue a successful franchise, it will help shape what Marvel looks like after the biggest crossover event of the modern superhero era. And that is why this update matters. Because once a Black Panther movie starts getting real release momentum, it means the studio is done keeping the project in the background. It means decisions are being made, story direction is becoming clearer, long-term implications are being mapped out. And for fans, that is the moment when speculation starts becoming the early outline of reality. So yes, this looks like a release date conversation on the surface, but underneath that, it feels like something much bigger. It feels like Marvel preparing to bring one of its most important legacies back to the front of the franchise at exactly the moment the universe needs a new center of gravity. Wakanda has always felt bigger than just one movie setting. It feels like a cornerstone, and Black Panther 3 may end up proving that more than ever in Phase 7. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more Marvel updates explained in a clear and packed way, subscribe to Secret Variant